And on today's program, today's speaker is Tom Lynch, who's going to talk about Madison's transportation future. And I know it's, for those who have been stuck in traffic and wondering, is this ever going to improve? This is probably a good topic for all of us, right? Tom is a registered professional engineer, professional traffic engineer, professional transportation planner, and certified planner. He currently serves as the Director of Transportation for the City of Madison and has over 25 years in the transportation planning field, where his planning efforts have resulted in almost $500 million of infrastructure projects. We look forward to your presentation, Tom, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thanks for speaking today. And as a welcome Tom to the podium, I want to mention that if you have a question, please come up at the end of the meeting after we adjourn and ask Tom those questions. Tom?
Great, thank you. So I want to just begin this whole presentation by honoring someone. So Chuck Kamp is right here. He has been Metro's manager for the last 13 years. Okay, I've just had the joy of actually working with him for the last 13 months, and he's made the transition so helpful. Some of the things that he has done, he was managed the system as it grew to over 15 million rides a year. 15 million rides, okay? He was the first in Wisconsin to introduce hybrid buses because he cares, about not only our transportation needs, but our environmental needs. He has set the stage for us to start purchasing electric buses. In 2012, Metro was named the best mid-size system in the nation under his leadership. He's just phenomenal. And not only that, technology. How many, you guys use Google Maps? Yes. Yeah, all right. So Google Maps is great for buses. I mean, it tells you when that bus is coming and if it's 2 minutes late. And it's because Chuck invested in the technology on our buses so that we could be in Google Maps. I better stop that right there. Yeah. Stop that. And now, the next 5 years are probably going to be some of the most exciting for Metro Transit, as has been for the last 20. And he has set the stage so well for us. We have infrastructure investments in our main facility. We're looking at a satellite facility. He's got lots of systems and personnel, a team that really is moving transportation forward. And I'm privileged to have worked with him for these 13 months, and I would actually like everyone here to thank him for his efforts these past 13 years. In fact, you can stand up. So, thank you, Chuck. Madison's growing. All right, just so you know, I didn't memorize my slides, and so I'm going to probably give you guys more eye attention than you guys, so I can see what I'm supposed to be talking about. Okay, the Chamber sent out this postcard probably about 6 months ago, and it's like a brag sheet on what Madison is, right? It says we're #1 for industry diversity, #1 for tech job momentum, second highest in employment outlook in the country, top 15 global startup cities in per capita venture capital investment, third best place to live in America, which I am going to contend. I think we're first, right? And we look at, this is from Bloomberg. This is about, I think, 2 months ago. This is where U.S. millennials are moving to, and we're second in the nation for attracting millennials. So the first place is New Haven, Connecticut, and I don't know much about that place. It's just because they haven't heard about Madison. Then we're going to rise to the top, right? This was in Inc. magazine about a year ago. It says, why Madison, Wisconsin attracts more millennials than any other city. It says, Madison is the smallest big city in America, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's a top 15 global city in access to venture capital per capita because of its connectivity. It says, Madison is where Austin was in the late 1990s. It has the talent, access to capital, connectivity, and livability that is seen in all major growing startup markets. Let's talk about the need, okay? In the last 5 years, Madison has approved 14,000 dwelling units. 14,000. Okay, that produces 120,000 daily trips. So just to give you perspective, East Washington Avenue carries about 50,000 daily trips, right? So that's like 2.5 times East Washington Avenue. All right, in the last 3 years, Madison has approved 3.3 million square feet of office, commercial, industrial, and institutional space, creating 60,000 daily trips. That's 180,000 daily trips. If we look at projections, population projections, these are from the Department of Administration. Right now, Madison's at 250,000 and Dane County is about 500,000. The official projections put us close to 300,000 and Dane County about 640, right? But typically, the Department of Administration projections have historically been conservative and low, okay? If we were to grow at the same rate, not any faster, but at the same rate as if we were from 1990 to 2017, okay, Madison would be at 355,000 and Dane County would be over 1 million. So in my mind, this means that we need to start preparing for what it means to be a metro area of 1 million people. Right? And what is the transportation system that we need for that? Okay. If we look at employment, Madison has 200 jobs in 2010. There's about another 85,000 jobs projected for 2050 for Dane County. Of those, 45,000 are going to go to Madison, and 10,000 are going to go in the Isthmus. Okay, so just to give you a perspective, I'm going to move this up a tad. Ooh, is that okay? It's better for me. So, if we take all the public, private, and surface parking spaces in the Isthmus right now, that's 10,000 spaces. Okay. So are we going to double that number to accommodate these job needs? You know, can we? Where would we put another parking garage? You know, there's just only so much space that we can do this with. I live on the east side, so most of my illustrations are from the east side, you know. Our situation in the morning rush hour, okay, if you're coming inbound on East Washington, you know, we have 3 lanes, you do the calculations with the signal. We have capacity for about 3,300 vehicles per hour in the morning rush hour, okay? Our demand, if you do the calculations, are about 3,600 vehicles per hour, okay? Now, if we were to add the traffic from those 10,000 jobs going into the Isthmus and assume a third of them are coming in from the east, that would be 2,100 vehicles per hour coming in, right? So that basically means that we need 2 more lanes in the east direction of East Washington Avenue. Okay, 2 more lanes. Okay, so now it's 3 lanes, so it'd be 5 lanes, right? So let's look at what that looks like. I stole this from Google Street View, and I know you guys are going to post it on the web, and people are going to know I stole it. It takes up the parking lane, right? And then you go 1 more lane, and that lane takes up the sidewalk, right? So can we really do that? And let's say we could do that. Is that what we want to do? Okay. Conversely, you know, we can't continue relying on the automobile. This is, I think, this is July 29th. We have many cameras, and I just pulled a video. This is rush hour. This is rush hour on East Washington. Do you want to add 2,100 trips to that? What does it look like? Okay. Conversely, we have 38 buses carrying 1,500 people in the morning peak hour coming inbound. If we just doubled it and made them, instead of making them 40-foot buses, we made them 60-foot buses, that's 3,800 vehicles. So basically right now, if you were to spread out our buses, that's like a bus every minute and 20 seconds. What if we just made it like a bus every 40 seconds? Doesn't that seem more plausible, easier to do, a way to meet our needs? The direction. So we are leaning heavily into bus rapid transit. The mayor is committed to providing a rapid transit network that meets Madison's transportation demands, foster economic development, and helps all residents get to where they are going. And not only the mayor, but I'm hearing a lot of support from a lot of the elected officials and the alders saying that we need to move to the next step. We have to go from being a big little city to a little big city. What is bus rapid transit? It's frequent service, typically about every 15 minutes during the peak hours. It's dedicated bus lanes, typically over 50% dedicated bus lanes, off-board payment, and high-end stations with amenities. Okay, this is the network we're looking at right now. What you see in blue is what we're going to be our first phase. The red hopes to be our extensions that would occur maybe a year or 2 after our main portion. This is an example of what bus rapid transit lanes would look like. This is just a generic street. Red is becoming kind of the traditional color for bus lanes in America. This is an example of how we would give, where we can't provide bus lanes, we can give buses priority through intersections. It's called a queue jump. And so basically the bus gets to go to the side, right? And they get a special signal. They get a special signal, so they get to start first before everyone else in that intersection. So rather than the bus and the 40 people on that bus having to wait in line, they get to go around the traffic congestion to get first in line. This is an example on University Avenue what a bus lane could look like. This is looking, I think, to the southeast. This is what it would look like with a bus lane. Why not light rail? This presentation grows every time I give it because people ask me questions, after it. And so I took, why not light rail? Light rail is cool, okay? However, it's expensive. We have $46 million for the Norfolk Tide. The Phoenix Metro is $79 million a mile. Okay. The Seattle Link South Line is $186 million a mile. Okay. In fact, the Hop. Any of you been on the Hop in Milwaukee? All right. I should have gifts, right? That's pretty cool. All right, that's 2.1 miles. That's more than $60 million a mile. All right, we have to span 15 miles. So basically, if we were to use light rail to meet our transportation needs, it would be $1 billion. $1 billion. Conversely, we can probably implement bus rapid transit in Madison, those 15 miles, for about $8.5 million a mile. And that's including the rolling stock, okay? If you just look at the road improvements and the stations, it's probably $5 or $6 million a mile. It's much more cost effective. And a lot of cities are doing it. This is an example of the Health Line in Cleveland, Ohio. They are probably the forerunners in the United States of using bus rapid transit. This is another picture of the Health Line in Cleveland. This is a picture of Chicago BRT. You can see the red lane. This is Wikipedia. Who likes Wikipedia? I love it. The teachers say don't use it, but it seems like it has all the information that I feel like I need. All right, so this is a list of existing bus rapid transit systems, okay? And I'm just pulling off some, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Eugene, Houston, Indianapolis, Phoenix, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C. These are all major metropolitan areas that are dealing with similar transportation issues that are looking to this to help solve those transportation issues. If we look at the way the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, has been distributing transit funding, okay, if you look at the top, bus rapid transit in 2018 had easily the most miles built, okay? But then in 2018, it had almost the lowest cost. So it is producing the most transportation benefits for the lowest cost. And that's why it's being looked at very favorably by the Federal Transit Administration right now. What about empty buses? This came from another question, right? What about empty buses? This is my kitchen, okay? It was recently remodeled. My wife is here. She says, "Why is our kitchen on the on the slide?" I thought the mayor was going to be here because otherwise I would have used the bathroom. But the most you use a kitchen might be 3 hours a day, right? 3 hours a day, and so 3 hours, maybe 4 hours a day. What is that? 10%, 15%. But you need access. You need access to that kitchen throughout the day. And if we talk about a bathroom, which I think is a little racier illustration, which is why I didn't put it in, you need access to it throughout the day, right? You need access to it. And that's the same way with transportation. We definitely need it when we go to and from work, but sometimes you need it in the middle of the day, and you need to be able to get to the store. And so that's what transportation is like. We don't really talk about the empty cars, right? Right? So sometimes we might have 4 passengers on a bus at 11 o'clock in the morning. But all these cars that are in the parking lots have no passengers in them right now. Right? And it's the exact same thing. In fact, if we talk about passengers per revenue hour, right? Metro's average is about 38 passengers per revenue hour, right? Where a passenger car, the average might be 1.2 per revenue hour. Do you see what I'm saying? Even with our empty buses, we are still probably transporting 30 to 40 times more people than the automobile in our buses. The amount of road needed to carry 40 people at 30 miles an hour. A bus, about 130 feet. Car, almost 3,000 feet. Okay? So let's look at this. I saw this illustration last night, and I thought it was good. This is, all right. So yeah, let me do this. All right. Here are 200 people in 177 cars. This is without the cars. This is in 3 buses. Do you see how more efficient transit is? And how, when you don't have space because you have an isthmus, you have to move towards transit? Okay? This is East Washington. This is what it takes to carry 80 people. All right? By bus, you can see in green. That's the road, amount of lane miles that you need on the East Washington Avenue to carry 80 people by bus and 80 people by car. And if 80 people by car, you basically go from Blair Street all the way to the river, Yahara River. Number of $65,000 underground parking spaces needed per 100 jobs. Parking is expensive, and underground parking is extremely expensive, right? Well, a bus, you don't need any of those, right? An auto, you need 100. 100, right? And then right now, we rent out those parking spaces at about $180 a month, right? Do you know what the debt service is for that parking space? It's about $365 a month. We can't even afford to pay the debt service for a parking space. You see how we just have to start moving in a different direction. The challenge. Metro. Right now, portions of our current bus barn are over 100 years old. Over 100 years old. Okay? We have significant infrastructure needs. The current bus barn was designed for 160 buses. It's now housing 215 buses. In 1 month, it'll be housing 218 buses. Okay? So this is the state. Funding has remained stagnant. Okay? So the red and the orange, they're kind of the highway funding and the local aids funding. The green at the bottom is the transit funding since the year 2000. Okay? So have any of you bought a pair of tires or a tire in the last, let's say, 2 months? Yeah. Did you drop like 170 a tire? It's shocking. You say, this can't be, right? Well, that same tire probably cost $50 or $60 in the year 2000, right? But that's what it is. That's what inflation does. Well, those are the exact same types of costs that Metro has to deal with, right? They buy tires for their buses, right? And yet our funding has not really increased. So we can't add service until we don't have more buses. We can't have more buses unless we have a place to store more buses, right? And we can't build a place to store more buses until we fix the place where our existing buses are. So this is terrible, right? But capital funding is being planned. Okay, so right now, 1101 East Washington, that's our current bus barn. That's in the SIP. And the council and the mayor have kept it in the SIP. SIP stands for Capital Improvement Program. Okay, Oscar Mayer, we're pursuing that as a satellite facility. You probably have seen maybe an article or two. That would be great. It would give us extra capacity. We are anticipating a BART Small Starts grant. We are hoping for 2022. It could be delayed a year, but that's what we're looking at. So you can see when you start stacking these things up, we have regular programmed improvements that we are approaching about the $250 million that it's going to take to get us to the next level. All right. So it's looking better than it has probably in 10 years. Would you say that, Chuck? Yeah. All right. I want you to come to meetings after you retire. So let's look at the benefit. How am I doing? All right, I'm doing okay. The impact of public transit. For every $1 spent, communities invest in public transportation, approximately $4 is generated in economic returns. So that's a pretty cool number. This is from NPR. It was, I think it was last fall. They had an interesting report on some research. The council's research shows that more than half of the jobs created in the Chicago area are now located within a half mile of public transportation stops. Other studies show that similar economic development patterns in downtown areas all across the country, with job growth greatest in the areas that are well served by transit. Chicago isn't the only region experiencing this kind of business boom. From Seattle to St. Louis and Minneapolis to Atlanta, companies are relocating near transit lines. Study finds BRT leads to economic development. Areas located within a half-mile of BRT corridors experience stimulated office space growth, new multifamily residential development increased, and premium rents gained a foothold for office spaces. This one I really like. This is, I remember I told you Cleveland was kind of the first in the nation to really lean into BRT. It says $5.5 billion in new investment resulting from the Euclid Avenue Streetscape and BRT study. If you go to their website now, this is an old graphic. It's over $9 billion. They are able to say that their BRT system generated over $9 billion in private investment in the corridor. So what's our potential, right? What's our potential? We're doing it for our transportation needs, but it will generate other benefits. So let's look at the BRT corridor, just a few details of what we're studying right now. Right now, as I mentioned, we're studying the blue route, which is the east-west route. We have 2 downtown options and 2 west side options. This is the west side option, so we're trying to figure out, do we go on Mineral Point Road? Do we go on Adana Road? Do we touch the west transfer point? You guys have opinions on that? I don't want them yet. All right, this is the downtown, too. All right, and there's several advantages associated with going on the red routes, and there's several advantages on going with the blue routes. And we really don't know which way to go yet. We're going to be making those decisions in the coming months. This is an example cross-section. So right now, East Washington Avenue, we have a parking lane, right? 2-hour parking for basically from Blair Street to, maybe not Blair, but almost near Blair to First Street, right? And so we hope to use that parking lane as a bus lane, and so the buses will get priority as they go through, all that congestion, and so what you get on a BRT bus, you can be confident, that you're going to get to your destination on time, probably in better time than if you were in the car. So what is it? Right now we're going to request to enter project development probably this fall, and right now we're trying to determine our locally preferred alternative, which has to do which routes do we take, Mineral Point Road or Adana Road. Then we have a bunch of studies and engineering and design to do, and we actually hope, in the best case scenario, that we'd start construction in 2022, okay, and then we would be ready to operate in 2024. So that's what we're hoping for. So, any of you remember this? Any of you remember this? Yes. All right, yes, right? All right, this is 1990. I think they went 0-11, right? The coach of the Badgers, who had just gone 0-11, says, you better get your season tickets now, right? And how many of you have season tickets? Yeah, he was right. And that same thing with the BRT. You are going to want to be a part of this. It's going to be the way we get downtown. It's going to be the way we get to jobs. It's going to be fast. It's going to be convenient. It's going to be safe. It's going to be clean. And you're going to want to be a part of it. So, and you know how being a part of it can start right now. So let's get personal, okay? What's in your wallet? All right? All right, so any of you have a commute card in your wallet? All right. All right. All right. So I am actually laying down a challenge. I'm laying down a challenge. I didn't give. Metro provided a bunch of two-pass rides. Two-pass rides. I believe in our product, and I think you will believe in our product too. If you do not have a bus pass, I want you to grab one of these, and in the next 2 months, I want you to take the bus somewhere. It's very easy to do. It's on Google. I'm not going to teach you that because I'd go over time. I believe in our product. I want you to check it out now, and then become a supporter and a customer. With that, Metro Transit, it's how we're getting there. Thank you.
So Tom, thank you for the presentation, and Tom will be here after we adjourn to be able to answer your questions, so please come on up. We are adjourned.